Hello everyone. Today we're going to learn how to create a logo with a vector design using the software Inkscape. Okay, this is going to be a very quick tutorial how to use the tool, how to use the Vector Illustrator software. Okay, so first of all, what we are going to do is open the software. The software we are going to be using is Inkscape, this one right here. Remember that every time you open Inkscape in Mac, another software called Xworks is going to open as well. Okay, so this is what the platform looks like. It's a very simple yet very useful tool for illustration, especially vector illustration. Okay, so the platform has basically four basic toolbars that we are going to use, and very few tools we are going to use for this project. Okay, the first toolbar we're going to be using is this toolbar on the left, where we have the selection tool, the laser selection tool. We have other tools that we want to use this in this project, like twirl and the maximizer. That is something we are definitely going to use. Maximizer, some basic shapes, and like a rectangle or a circle. And we are also going to use all the time our pen. Okay, the pen is the one we are going to use the most. Okay, you can also use a gradient tool and color selection tools. Those are the tools we are going to use. Okay, then on the top part we have the basic menus like maximizers. Here we have some menus for text, paragraph and character, and very importantly the layers. We are going to use layers as well. We can use the alignment tool right here. Okay, on this part we have the basic menus and new document, save, print, undo, redo, copy, cut, and paste. Okay, well, let's start. So the very first thing we are going to do is open another layer. Okay, right here we can see the layers. I have already two layers because the first one is where I have my presentation, but I am just going to block and hide. Okay, I want to use this layer right here. So on this layer I am going to rename the layer, and it's going to be used only for my image, for my reference image. Okay, so I'm going to change the name, rename it as sketch. Okay, what I'm going to do is insert my sketch that I already took a picture of, and I'm going to put it here so that I can start copying my sketch. Okay, I have already saved the image in my files, so I am going to import the image from my files. Okay, and this is what my logo will look like, but I prefer this design right here, so I'm going to draw it in different elements and integrate this letter A right here. Okay, so in this sketch I won't use this layer anymore, so I'm going to block it as well, so I don't have to move it. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to create another layer, and that is the layer where I will create my logo. my vectors. Okay, so right here is where I'm going to start drawing or vectorizing my image. Okay, it is important to mention that this is just a format. It's a letter size, but you can always change the size of your print format. I'm going to maximize it with this tool right here, and it doesn't really matter if it is big or it's small. It's not really changing the size of my image. It's just zooming in. Okay, now that I have this, I am going to create the first element, that is this column right here. So I am going to use the pen tool. So I'm going to start point by point. Those are called nodes. If you press Control, you create a straight line. Okay? The least points you use, the better and cleaner your image will be. It is very, very important to mention that the elements must be closed. The elements must be completely closed so that I can fill the element with a color. Okay? Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to move the lasers so I can create curves. If you notice, I am pulling my lines a little bit so that I can reach the angle I wanted. The thing about this tool is that you have to create curves. Okay, so if you notice, I have these handles right here. They are called lasers, and I can move around these handles to create the curve I want. Every time you touch on the node, you will see these lasers or these handles to move the curve exactly in the angle you want. Okay, that is how I want my first element. So I'm going to choose any color. Yeah, and I can also change by just left clicking on a color. You fill in the object. But if you want to change the color of the outline, or you want no color in the outline, what you have to do is right click. It is important to mention that I'm using a mouse and it's a lot easier. Okay, so imagine that I want to change the outline, so I set it for my outline. Or if I don't want any outline in my color, so I use this X right here and set outline. That is my first element, and now I am going to create my second element, that is the letter A. If you click on the space bar, you can move around your canvas without having to use the chevrons right here. Okay, I am going to create now this element separately, and I use again my pen tool, and I start creating point by point. Imagine where the curve is going to change, and that is where you have to insert another node or another point. Okay, you don't need points everywhere. It's just where you consider the curve is going to change dramatically. As I mentioned before, it is essential that your object is closed, okay? That weird shape is going to change with the use of the curves. It is also important to say that right here I am since it is a platform for Windows, in Mac you don't use Command Z to undo, but you use Control Z. I am going to use my Blazor edit tool to create the curve that I expect or that I need. In this case, I am going to change the color of my outline so that I can see very well where I want the curve of my lines. Okay, I'm going to do it roughly, and then I can change this rough. If you see the object, it's going to be very, very rough angles, pointy angles, and that is something I don't want. So what I'm going to do is select the nodes. Okay, select the nodes, in this case these 4 nodes right here, and I am going to say they are soft. Okay, I need soft nodes. That means that every time you move one side of the Blazor, the other side will move too. Okay, in this case I didn't touch this node, so this is not soft. I need a pointy shape right here. But this one, I want it soft, and I want it to move evenly with the other part of the curve. Okay, this one I will do that too. But if you notice, I didn't select this node right here. So if I move it, I'm going to have this corner, and I don't want that. So I'm going to select this node and say soft. So I can move the curve, okay, to fit the curve with no pointy ends. Perfect. Yes, so that is the shape I want. I want no outline, and if you see, okay, I have a pointy shape here. That is something I am going to change. I didn't see that because I had the other layer. So I'm going to change this curve right here so it's not so pointy. Okay. Yeah, that is how I want it. That looks much better. Yeah, it looks much better now. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is to create the hole inside. Okay. For this object, I'm going to use this color. I like this color right here. Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to create this object right here. Now I'm going to create this element, and then I'm going to pierce this element to the green A. First, I create with a pen. The least nodes possible. Okay, and I can now modify these curves. Remember that these two nodes right here, I am going to soften so they move evenly on both sides of X and Y. I am going to maximize my workspace, sorry, so that I can see very well all the details of my design. Okay, these are curves as well. And if you notice, you may not notice because it was very close, but seeing from it was very far, but seeing from close, you can see that the element had a curve here as well. Okay, I'm going to minimize the space so that I can see all the objects. Right click, and it doesn't really matter which color I use, because as I said before, I am going to pierce this element to this element right here. So let's learn how to pierce this object. The very first thing I'm going to do is use my selection tool, select the element on top, shift, select the element in the back. I am going to go to Trayecto and Difference. That is how I pierced the element. Okay. Then I can move my second element to the first element exactly where I want it. I still don't like this pointy end, so I'm going to elongate the curve. Much better now. Yes. I am going to minimize to see all my design. Left click, and I don't need this layer right here anymore. I can keep it for later, or I can just eliminate the layer. Okay. In this case, I'm just going to leave it like that, but hidden. And this is how I create my logo. And I have my logo complete. Now I can use it. File, save as. I can save it as SVG, which is a generic extension for vectors, or PNG if you want to keep the transparency of your objects. You can also save it as JPG or PDF. In this case, I'm going to save it as PNG, so I can keep the transparency. Okay. I have my logo now. I don't have the transparency, so I'm going to try a different way. Exportar imagen PNG. Okay, only this layer. Export. Yeah, I have my logo with transparency. Okay, well, that's it for today. You have already created your logo. And don't forget to save your image as an editable file. Okay, thanks for watching.